Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all our hackers and mentors who joined us today for the second mentoring session on the ICTs for Indigenous Languages Hackathon. We've had a very successful first session last week where we've actually had hackers from the Asia Pacific region, and wanted to address all the globe with our online hackathon. So this is our second mentoring session that is mainly addressed to the Latin American, USA, and Middle Eastern community. So my name is Tala Debs. I work as part of the World Summit on Information Society, WSIS team. And WSIS forum is actually a UN multi-stakeholder process that is aimed at promoting the importance of ICTs as a major enabler to the Sustainable Development Goals. And I work as a coordinator, among other activities, of the WSIS Forum 2022 Hackathon that was launched this year in close collaboration with ITU, UNESCO, and many other stakeholders. So we've started our hackathon on 18 April, and we are really happy with the results that this hackathon has achieved so far. We have more than 620 registered participants on our Hacker Earth platform. So we see that the topic is really of importance, and our hackers actually come from more than 72 countries. So this is actually the power of having our hackathon online. And actually teams between 2 to 5 members are currently ideating ICT solutions to address 3 of the main challenges faced today for Indigenous languages, that are knowledge, preservation, and empowerment. Before I move on with our agenda for today, I would like to hand the floor to my colleague Joe from UNESCO to provide some welcoming remarks to everyone. Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tala, and welcome to everyone. For my part, on behalf of UNESCO, which is the UN Agency for Education, the Sciences, and Culture, I'm Joe Hironaka, and I presently work as a program specialist in the area of digital innovation and transformation, as well as working focal point for WSIS, which is why I'm here. And I'm really happy on this occasion for this event. UNESCO and our friends at ITU, and really across the UN system actually, have been involved in coordinating the launch of the International Decade of Indigenous Languages, which began this year and runs thus through 2032. And WSIS, the Information Society, the online space, computational tools have a really non-trivial role in this issue, right? Which is the issue of how can we mitigate serious and grave risks to Indigenous languages today through the WSIS community. And the centuries of history and knowledge and culture that disappear in this way. This decade, this international decade, highlights the gradual disappearance of the more than 7,000 languages used around the world today. And this is according to the revised UNESCO World Atlas of Languages, which is being relaunched later this year. For various, and I guess self-evident reasons, Indigenous people and Indigenous communities are shifting toward dominant languages for survival. Indigenous populations also experience barriers to access information in their own languages. To illustrate with something familiar to you, Wikipedia articles are available in around 326 languages, and Google Translate addresses around 109 languages. And again, juxtapose that to the more than 7,000 languages at continuous risk of extinction. Coding is a language, right? And as each of you are at different stages of a path to achieve native fluency in these languages, I think this may allow you to connect at some level with the challenges of Indigenous languages, with the challenge of envisioning an internet that can better mitigate the threats to Indigenous languages and support communities to teach and to pass languages on to new generations. The WSIS Hackathon exercise, certainly more than any rewards or recognition, is an opportunity to connect your computing language skills to support other languages that are deeply threatened. And any exercise that connect your skills to your empathy is something I hope you will have the instincts to welcome and embrace as part of your pursuit of happiness. And I want to thank our ITU friends, and particularly Kala. I'm filled with admiration for her work on this, for the support of the entire WSIS Secretariat team and our Hacker Earth partners. I really invite you to applaud their imagination and spirit and just thorough professionalism. There'll be, bumps in the road, but they're doing amazing work behind the scene. And I'm really grateful to Hacker Earth and to ITU in this respect. I wish to recognize the Internet Society and Nokia for their support as our partners for this hackathon. Thank you to Loveleen, who is here with us as an expert mentor. And thank you to your Nokia and to your Bell Labs colleagues. I hope we can sustain all forms of this collaboration along these lines through WSIS and through the decade that comes. Thank you also very much to the mentors, to Eddie and Holly and Khalid and Sven Eric and Walt. Thank you very much for your time today, engaging with the hackathon community. Thanks, Dawa.
Thank you very much, Joe, and we look forward to our continuous collaboration with UNESCO along the decade of Indigenous languages. Thank you very much. We are very honored today to have a great panel of experts in technologies and Indigenous communities with us today. So our agenda for today is as follows. We will try to have a quick round of introduction so that each mentor will have the opportunity to highlight for 2 to 3 minutes his or her expertise and tell us why it is important today to ideate solution around this topic. Then each mentor will be put in a breakout room, and then hackers can come and ask their targeted questions to them. So to simplify the logistics, I see many hackers joining us today. Please, if you can add next to your name the challenge area that you are interested in between knowledge, empowerment, and preservation. And if not, you can also add something more general so that we can know to which mentor we can assign you. And of course, you can always come back to the lobby by clicking on a leave room, and we can reassign you to other mentors if you wish to speak to more than one. So without further delay, I would like to start to introduce our mentors who are volunteering their time to be with us today, by starting by Mr. Khalid Shukri, who is the CEO of European Language Resources Association, ELRA. Mr. Shukri, you manage a large number of national and international projects on all issues related to languages resources. Your expertise is mainly focused on exploitation of emotion in the design of interfaces. You work towards making ICT solutions and services understandable by making sure that ICT linguistic requirements are accessible to all users, in particular, those with specific needs. In your opinion, what are the essential data needed to create and ideate solutions for Indigenous languages today? Mr. Shukri, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm very glad to be with you today. Joe mentioned that among these 7,000 languages, spoken languages, very few have technologies available. And if we look at the reality, less than maybe 300 or 400 have written systems, which means that many are spoken, and the culture goes with these spoken cultures that we see in many continents. As you said, I am very much involved in language technology development. We got the chance to organize with UNESCO the Language Technology for All, LT for All, in the framework of the Year of Indigenous Languages, and now in the Decade of Indigenous Languages. And our objective is to make sure that we collect resources for all the languages that deserve to have language technologies available, so people can search information in their mother tongue, can have access to interpretation if they want to talk to colleagues from other cultures and other languages. They can have translation services. They can have dictation systems like we have today for a number of languages within our smartphones and the like. So not all the languages would like to have that, but the objective is to make sure that those who want to have it have access to that. And the main thing is to collect resources. Could be spoken data, it could be conversations, it could be TV shows, it could be broadcast news, it could be whatever. Text corpora, it could be tweets, it could be newspapers, whatever. And the idea is to make sure that all these things is compiled into a kit that allow languages to have the technologies that I mentioned. And one of the big challenges for most of the languages today is to detect, for instance, hate speech, hate being either audio data or in the written form. And this is a very, very critical thing. So I'm here today as a language technologist. I'm very happy to be with you today. And in the coming weeks, I will be very happy to help your hackathon team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the importance of resources has been actually a question that we had raised by many of our hackers during the previous mentoring session, where to find data, how to collect data. So thank you for highlighting this, and you will be having the opportunity to speak with our hackers on this topic further. Moving on with our second vendor for today, Mr. Eddie Avila, who's a director of Rising Voices. Eddie, you lead a Global and Rising Voices, which is an initiative that gathers the voices of different language communities and digital activists and highlight the key initiatives aiming to enhance the presence of indigenous languages online, including trainings, resources. So from your perspective, how are ICTs today helping in saving and promoting indigenous languages, particularly at the grassroots and on the local level?
Yes, hi everyone. Greetings from Cochabamba, Bolivia. Thanks for the invitation to be here. And as I was mentioned in the introduction, I work for an organization called Global Voices, and I'm the director of Rising Voices, which works to support communities around the world who want to leverage the internet, digital media technology for their self-determined needs. And in this case, we work a lot with language communities, indigenous, minority, low resource languages, endangered languages, by supporting digital activists who are more often than not speakers, native speakers, but also heritage speakers who want to take advantage of the internet, the digital world, digital spaces to promote their language, but also to encourage young people, to see their language reflected on internet and digital spaces. And so what we do is facilitate spaces for peer learning and for exchange, because the digital activists have been working for, some cases more than 10, 15 years in this world, in this space, but also there's newcomers to this field. And so what we'd like to do is create those spaces for exchange to learn about the challenges, but also the strategies to overcome those challenges. We also help to amplify the stories coming from those communities to talk about how important it is for them to see their language in digital spaces, and then also highlight interesting initiatives. And overall, we see that digital activists are doing so because of the love of their language and culture, and they really take a do-it-yourself approach, meaning they're not waiting around for the government or NGOs or the university to create content or to promote their language, but they're finding a way to do that. And very much similar to Hackathon, they're finding a way to hack together existing tools or platforms, but adapting it for their own needs. And I think that's the most important part, that activists are bridges who understand the needs of the community, but also have understanding of the digital world. And so many of you are those bridges, are maybe digital activists, may not know it already. And so I think hopefully I can help match up the needs that you have identified, but also strategies that could help, based off other experiences that may be able to help promote your language. So I'll share some information in the chat if you want to learn more about our organization, but I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eddie. And we had also a very important point that was raised during the previous mentoring session, where it was mentioned that actually language for Indigenous communities is not only a mode to communicate, but it's really part of the culture. It's really to ensure and guarantee the preservation of the whole culture. So thank you for working towards that preservation. Moving on with our third mentor for today, Mr. Loveleen Shada from Nokia, Data Value Manager in working for Nokia. And I would like to also thank Nokia for providing a mentorship opportunity for our mailing teams to be able to further develop their solution. Mr. Shada, I will ask you the same question like the first time. So you are this design thinking experts. What does it take to transform an idea into a product? And how much should we give importance to the use case itself?
I think, when first thing I would like to say is really thankful to you that you are invited me to both these sessions and included me part of this program. We should be, starting always from the user. That's what I always promote. And use case always starts with the user. That's why the word use is there. If you talk about the indigenous languages, some of them may be at a very, very immediate risk of, in danger. Some of them may be having a little bit more time and, have a more breathing space. So the first use case I will say is to preserve all the data which is around there. If we just apply here that rather than talking about the technology solution, we need to have audio samples. We need to have meaning of those audio recordings, because even though we don't have a solution available, it is important to preserve those things. That is the first thing that we need to think in terms of a use case here. For this particular thing, the kind of tools which are required are very different. They may be very, very simple tools which you can do on your mobile phone, simple apps, giving all the community to record the data and collect that data. Then comes the second use case where we want to build out some applications using this data. One very common application is when people are speaking, we should be able to transcribe it. There should be voice commands, voice activated things happening based on these languages. That's where some of this machine learning, AI, deep learning, these kind of technologies come into picture. There is a little bit of heavy lifting involved over there. So the first use case, if you see, is just about collecting the data. It is doable with very, very little amount of technology. It is doable with very, very easy, but you need a involvement of the community. The second use case is about technology. That's where, we need to do some heavy lifting. Over there also, we need to think about that all these indigenous languages, they are actually sharing a lot of common characteristics. The typical common things are that some of them do not have a script. They don't have a written form. They just have a spoken fact. Second thing is very little data is available. And my feeling is through these kind of initiatives, the solutions which will be coming out, these solutions will be actually addressing problems of lots of languages. Even though a team may be working only for one particular indigenous language, but if you're building out a solution to build a machine learning model which can work with very small amount of data, I don't see any limitation why this kind of knowledge cannot be used by another team somewhere else who's using the same kind of constraints. So from that perspective, that's what really this design thinking is about. You are looking at what is the use case, what are the users starting, and to get your product into real concrete shape, you need to have a team. Thankfully, we have a scope for 5 team members. 1 or 2 of them could be language experts. Couple of them are coders and programmers. In the last session, we found that some of the teams were struggling, that they did not have any kind of programmers there. And Mandar helped us in figuring out that the platforms allows you to collaborate and find out new team members. Building this team is a very, very crucial initial activity that can determine your success. So get the right people in your team. At least 1 or 2 people should be very strong on the passion, and other people should be good on the technology front. If you lack something, the mentors are here to help you with those activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Loveleen. And we will actually use the last part of our session today to also do the demo on Hacker Earth to help the teams search for team members in case they don't have enough teammates or they are expert, for example, in one topic and would need a programmer. So thank you for highlighting this point. Moving on to our next mentor, Mr. Valts Ernst Reitz, who's a director at the University of Latvia. Mr. Valts, thank you for also being available for both mentoring sessions. For decades, you have been involved in revitalization efforts of the Livonian language. Can you share with us good practices and key initiatives implemented in Latvia in the domain of language promotion, including information technologies? And what are the next steps envisaged in your country in the framework of IDEAL, International Decade of Indigenous Languages?
Hello to everyone, and I'm really grateful that that I was invited to participate in this hackathon as a mentor. And as Tal already mentioned, I have been involved being Indigenous representative of Indigenous Livonian people myself, and working as director of University of Latvia Livonian Institute. I've been involved for decades in safeguarding Livonian and trying and promotion Livonian and very different subjects, starting from very practical to up to building digital resources for the language, which is actually very small and has been quite a small has had quite a small speaker base for the past 200 years. So it's about 200 years ago it was 2,500 people. Now today we have a little bit more than 20 speakers, but it's still very vital, and it's still kind of goes forward. So what I wanted to point out is something that comes from our experience in Livonian case, experience in the field, building resources and various technologies for the language. And I had a programmer, and I still have this programmer, whom I kept asking different things, like, can we build this and can we build that? And he taught me one very good method that we have been using in Livonian case, and it is that actually everything in this world can be done and everything can be achieved, but you need to give 2 yeses. You need to answer positive 2 questions, and they both are extremely important questions. So the first one is, do you really need it? And that is a very, very important question, because it's it is significant to distinguish the dream from the fantasy, where dream is something that you can achieve, but fantasy is something that you cannot. And so chasing fantasy and trying to achieve unachievable things may just lead to waste of resources. And this is where we come to the second yes. The second yes is that you have to give, after you have given first yes, is whether you have enough resources to do anything. And that is the question that every single indigenous language, every single endangered language meets in the process, because all of these languages are and always will remain low on resources, low on people, low on technology, low on finance. And it's very important to understand, where does your resource go, and do you have enough of that resource to be used? So the one way how we are trying to tackle in Livonian case this lack of resource is that we are trying to work pretty much with involvement of the community, because the community is something that can support every effort. But in order to involve the community, it's very important that all the solutions, especially ICT solutions, have to be as simple as possible, as usable as possible by as many people as there are, because we need to count that majority of the people using resources and being involved may not be very proficient in the using complicated technologies. But the key approach that we have in Livonian case is so-called rabbit soup approach. So this is something that comes from my family and from food tradition, where when you, for example, boil potatoes or something, so don't throw away the water from the potatoes, but instead of that, you just add some ingredients and you make the soup out of that water. And this is the approach that we use for technologies and resources that we are building, is that by doing one thing, you simultaneously are doing several things at once. So by pushing a button, the information goes to, for example, 4 different databases. So you don't need to spend additional effort to do as much things that you might be spending by doing all the things separately. And that's kind of advantage that low resource languages, low resource communities have. It is extremely important that and what's the purpose of this hackathon is that it is extremely important for all the languages, all the indigenous languages, and all the endangered languages to have the same technologies, the same abilities that any other, just in order to stay in the competition, because that's the key issue. We have to kind of stay in the competition in order to have a future. And that's I'm actually why I'm very glad that this hackathon takes place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bart. So for a summary, we have to note your 2 yeses. Do you need it? And do you have the resources to do it? And you've mentioned a very important point, which is the replicability of our solution. So the solution has to be able to address many languages and not only a specific one. Thank you very much. Moving on with our 5th mentor for today, Ms. Holly Helton Anishinabekwa. I hope I said it right. Who's the Executive Secretary of the Global Indigenous Languages Caucus in the USA. So you come from an indigenous community. How are you able to preserve the Anishinaabe, your mother tongue, and transmitting it to your 2 kids? How can ICT technologies help us preserve indigenous languages today?
Well, one of the ways that we are preserving our language is we actually have a website called the Ojibwa People's Dictionary that was founded by Professor Nichols at the University of Minnesota. And this dictionary can be searched in both Anishinaabe and in English. But the way that this dictionary is unique is that we have elders who are recorded saying each word, so that anyone who accesses it can also see and hear the different words in the dictionary. And a lot of times we have Anishinaabe speakers who do not live anywhere near our communities. And so the language is lost in that way. So this is a way to reconnect to both the language and to the culture. The way I'm revitalizing the language in my home is I have set up a language nest in which I only speak Anishinaabe to my 2 sons. And in this way, they're learning Anishinaabe from me, but also helping me to practice as well. Because in my family, the language was never passed on. So I had to learn from a different source because of the boarding school incidents and assimilation. The language in my family only went from my great-grandmother, who then never taught it to her children for fear that her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren would be taken away to the boarding schools. So I've revitalized language within my own home by creating this language nest with me and my sons. And I have fought very hard, both at the Permanent Forum and in other arenas, to prioritize the growing of new speakers, of getting youth and children and young adults involved in the development in language programs. The organization I work for, the Global Indigenous Languages Caucus, we help to fund communities to set up language programs within their own communities. It is vital that we pass on our language and our culture and our traditions to our children. If we are not growing new speakers and inspiring our young to fight for the right to be able to speak their languages and learn their languages, then our languages will be lost. In my own household, my son, Wabashishan Martin, he was the very first Indigenous student in the state of Wisconsin in the United States to actually take his Indigenous language in a public school and as a foreign language, which I know is kind of funny, but he was the very first. And now 12 other students in my state are also taking their Indigenous languages in public schools, which is extremely rare. And I hope that through my experience and through my activism, that others can find ways both through technology and through activism in order to promote and preserve their languages. But also, when you think about when you do any kind of language activism through technology, please always remember your younger audience. Remember, how can we inspire the youth to use these resources and use these technologies? Many of our young people are more tech savvy than us, than our elders in our community. And I think sometimes we kind of forget that, you know, when the youth do want to relearn their language, maybe for the first time or just to refresh, how are they able to access these resources and use them themselves? And I just want to make sure that, you know, everybody keeps that in mind, because I have 2 teenagers, and when they look for language resources online, they look for websites, they look for apps, and usually the ones they go to are the ones that are easy to use and have the most information on there, as well as audio information is crucial. So then you can practice along with the audio. So you can have that separate part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Such an inspiration, and your story is really, for me, it's an inspiration. So thank you for sharing it with us today. Finally, I think I don't know, I don't see Dr. Sven with us. Dr. Sven, are you with us? Oh, yes, I see him as a participant, but I don't see. So he was with, yes, Dr. Sven.
Yes, do you hear me?
Okay, thank you very much, because I lost you. Thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. So Dr. Sven Erik Souzer is a member of the UN Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. And Dr. Sven, you're a linguist and a senior researcher at the Institute of the Estonian Language. As an advocate to the development of Indigenous Finno-Ugric language, what are the main challenges faced by Indigenous communities today to access ICTs and digital content? And what are we missing in terms of digital solutions that can help in the preservation of Indigenous languages?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this event. It is really nice to see that you are paying a lot of attention to Indigenous languages also. And what concerns Finno-Ugric languages, then in case of most Indigenous languages, digital resources are very scarce compared to the big languages. And usually the smaller the number of speakers of the language, the less we have digital resources for it. But text-to-voice and voice-to-text applications need resources. Both written and recorded speech has to be created. And in case of endangered languages, even the collection of such data is often very difficult. And also big IT companies do not support Indigenous languages as a rule, and only languages with some official recognition are supported. Also, there is not enough support from the state institutions, and private companies are also not interested since there is no profit expected from such projects. And language activists are forced to rely on their own sources and are applying for scholarships from different funds for their work. In case of Uralic or Finno-Ugric languages, 3 of the peoples that are speaking these languages, namely Hungarian, Finnish, and Estonian, have their own independent states, which allows them to better means for development their digital language resources. And also private and government funds, especially in Finland and Estonia, are supporting the digital development of smaller Finno-Ugric languages. But in recent years, it is impossible to fund researchers and developers that are living in Russia because of the law on foreign agents, which makes the work of organizations and people who receive financial support from abroad very difficult in Russia. And most of these smaller indigenous languages of Finno-Ugric family are spoken in Russian Federation. Also, another problem is that there are, in some cases, there are very old materials that have been gathered already over 100 years ago by researchers, and there are extensive text collections that are being digitalized, but these need also they need OCR tools since they are written in a very complex phonetic transcription that is hard to read even for humans, but also for computers. So there are really a lot of challenges facing indigenous Finno-Ugric languages in cyberspace, and there are problems to find resources even when there are people who are interested in working on these languages. We don't often find financial resources. But in case of Finno-Ugric languages, it's also good that some of the languages are closely related. So you can use sometimes resources that are developed for one language. You can modify it and use it for another language. But yeah, this also makes it sometimes easier for development of digital language resources. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe our hackers will be able to raise the challenge, and luckily we'll have innovations that will help us preserve those languages. So thank you all. We will now move on to the second part of our session today. So we will open the breakout rooms, and the hackers will actually be able to ask you directly questions. And then before we close the session, everyone will be brought up to the main lobby, and we will have a small Q&A with our hackers team to answer all platform related questions and what criteria are needed for a submission. So I would like to ask my colleague Mike to kindly open the breakout sessions. Okay, I think we can assign people automatically to join. Mike, possible to stop the recording as well? So my colleagues from Hacker Earth will give a small demo on how to search for teammates. I know that the hack is live. Hackers still have until the 10th of May to submit their solution. So our colleagues from Hacker Earth will explain to you how to search for teammates, how to make a submission, a valid submission. And then I will be informing you about the next steps of this hackathon. So Adarsh, if you can share your screen and explain to everyone.
Thank you very much, Tala. And yes, thank you very much for joining in, everybody. I will share my screen shortly. Just bear with me. Are you able to see my screen, everyone?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So yes, so once you land onto the landing page for ICTs for indigenous languages, you'll see something like this on the right hand side if you're coming here for the first time. And you'll only be able to submit a project if you have at least 2 members in your team, okay, to submit a project. For example, I've just registered onto this site and I would like to either add a team member or join another team. I'll click on that. Either I can build a new team. So you can see me here. I show up as a leader since I'm the only one here. I can either browse participants. So maybe one of your friends or colleagues have joined the platform the same way that you did. You can search for them and invite, or you can invite them using an email address if you have one, or and you can also add a personal message so that they can know what's going on, or where you're from, etc. Or you can give a small intro if it's somebody new. You also have a toggle button on the right hand side which shows that you're looking for a teammate. So if you activate that, other people who are also looking for teammates, they would know that you're looking for one, and it's easier for you to know things. And yes, you can also join teams. So for example, if I click on this button here which says join a team, and I do see all of the information about that team. So for example, this particular team here, I think it's for Pallavi Sharma. You see the kind of people background that they have. So there's back-end, front-end developers, etc. So if you think that you're the right fit, you can click on join this team, and then a request gets sent out to this particular team, and you can go through all the teams and see where you fit in the right, and where you can put maximum of yourself, and you'll be a great resource. Go ahead and join there. And they should be able to accept, and you should be able to form a team there. All right.
Okay. Maybe Anders, you can also share the part where they can submit a project. So for all our hackers, actually, we have prepared a template PowerPoint presentation that you would need to fill with your project description, what is the solution about. It's really just this template that we will be accepting, and of course in parallel to the source code that you will be sharing with our Hacker Earth teammates. And also it would be great, I mean, I'm not a coding person myself, I don't understand technical things, so we requested a demo link, either to a quick YouTube video that you have made to showcase the solution that you have developed, or the service, or the application, or the dictionary. It can be many things. So if you can show some screenshots of how this solution is being used, or maybe an animation. So just to make it simple for the judging team, because our judges, not all of them are technical people. Some of them come from indigenous communities. I know Holly is one of our judges, so she would need to understand what you are developing. So this is why, can you go please to the submission guidelines, Ardash, where you were before?
Got it. I'll just move there. So
yeah. Okay. So here, when you click here, you have 3 mandatory fields you will need to fulfill. A description of the solution, this template that you would need to fill, what challenge area you have chosen, the screenshots of the solution, and if you can go back, Anders, you have also, we would need you to provide us with the link of any YouTube screenshots, something related to the demo link, so that we can understand what you are developing. So you have until May 11th to, May 11th India time, May 10th European time, midnight European time, to submit your solutions. And then we will have 5 finalists in each of the challenge areas, so 15 finalists in total. And the judging team will reunite during the week of 16 May to review the different submissions and announce the winners. We might, depending on the judging team timing and availability, we will maybe have a session where all the 15 finalists will be pitching their solutions to the judges for 1 minute. So we are still discussing this. And the 3 winners will be announced during the final week of the WSIS forum that will be held during the from 30th of May to 3rd of June. We have a high-level dialogue on Indigenous languages and ICTs that is organized on 2nd of June, where the 3 winners will be announced. So all this information will be made available soon on the Hacker Earth page with all the deadline. Now you focus on your submissions. As my colleague Anders mentioned, you need to be more than 2 teammates to be able to submit a solution. We've started receiving many submissions, so continue submitting. If you have questions, there's a resource center, there's a discussion forum where you can ask your questions, and a member from the team will be very happy to answer you. If you have questions to us, I know that the time was very short. You were not able to ask all your questions to the mentors. Please feel free to raise your hand and ask your questions now. And I wanted to also thank our mentors. I hope you've enjoyed this experience today with us. We have someone who raised their hand, Franca. Franca, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Good evening from where I am. So quickly, my question is, on my team, we don't have a game developer. We already have the idea we want to work on. We have the framework. We have the animator doing his work. But what is lacking is getting the projects come to life. It's actually a gaming app. So what we need now is getting it to life. So my question is, do we need to bring in a game developer, or it's okay for this stage that we can make our submissions that way, or do we really need to bring in a game developer that will make it come to life?
So you can actually submit a proof of concept. You don't need to submit a solution that is final. You need to submit an idea, but not only on a slide where it needs to, you need to start developing it by having a maquette, something more concrete than just an idea. Because this hackathon is not an ideathon, it's not only for ideas. We are searching for experimental demos. So not a final product, but a product that can be further developed. My colleague Adarsh can help you. If you can, Adarsh, put an email so that Franca can ask you how to search for, because a lot of our registered participants are actually developers and they don't have the ideas. So you are coming and you have, I think, more than 100 developers on this platform that are ready to help you develop your idea. So my colleagues will put you in touch with them and you will be able to further develop your gaming idea.
All right, thank you very much.
Pleasure and good luck. Do we have other questions?
Tala, you asked one yourself about whether we were happy to be here today. I'm sure that the other mentors share my feeling. It's a really nice experience. Personally, I would be very happy to help over the coming days or weeks. So if you get any emails about language technologies, how people can develop speech to text, text to speech, machine translation, welcome to forward that to me. I'll be very happy to see how I can help.
Thank you very much. This is duly noted, and we will make sure to pass on the questions to you. We had a question from Yasmin. Yasmin, you've raised your hand.
Hello, I want to thank all the mentors and our mentors Khalid and you Tala. So my question is, can team members chat with each other in that platform?
Yes, I will defer to I think there's a discussion forum among teammates, right, Adarsh?
Yes, there is a discussion forum that they can have among teammates.
And also, Adarsh, if you can, we have a question in the chat. Actually, someone is asking where to find the detailed description of the solution. No, actually, there is no. We have a template, and one of the slides is called detailed description of the solution. So, what does the solution? If you would to describe in one paragraph what your solution is about, to what problem statement is it? I mean, what is the problem statement? How is it helping to address it? That would be enough. And then actually all the slides that are in the template will help us better understand your solution. So please use the template that is provided on Hacker Earth platform to detail the description of the solution. Thank you. We have someone who raised their hand as well. Costanza Caligari.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
I have a question. I already asked this to my mentor, but I just wanted to make sure. So I'm from Paraguay. It's a country in South America, and we're building a platform where we can connect students to professors that speak indigenous language. But the thing is, we're talking about Guarani, and Guarani is an indigenous language, but it's spoken like for the mainly 90% of the population that is not indigenous. So on the website it says that it's like a solution for indigenous communities, and actually I want people from urban areas to speak the indigenous language. So it's not for indigenous communities, but it's to help preserve this language. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, of course. I mean, this could fall under the challenge area called preservation, because you would like other communities to use your own language. So you want to revive it and spread it throughout the different communities. So of course it is.
Yeah, and
please do submit it.
Okay, but I don't know in what theme. I don't know if it's knowledge preservation or empowerment.
Okay, yes.
Website too.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, our themes are quite interconnected, and this is actually good because I don't know. My colleagues from Hacker Earth is the teams can see how many submissions do they have in each challenge areas, because if they want to raise their chances to win, I would suggest that they submit in a challenge area where you have underrepresentation. But actually what we will do, the judging team will reassess. I mean, if a project is really of a good quality, we will reassess and see if we can put it under another category. So feel free to see. We tried to summarize the 3 themes. I know it's not very clear because all of them are quite interconnected. Yeah, feel free to maybe send us an email to see in which category it's best fit, and then we will be happy to help you. And maybe we'll pass it on to our mentors. Maybe they're also very happy to guide you on this.
Okay, I will send an email today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to receiving your submission from Paraguay. We do have someone else. Elwin, you've raised your hand. Oh, you've written your question in the chat. Okay. So we have actually people joining now. I don't know if a lot of them are currently joining. So just for all of you to know, this session is actually recorded and it will be made available on the Hacker Earth platform, on the WSIS YouTube channel, and we will share all the photos and recording with all our mentors. Thanking you for your valuable time that you're giving to our Hacker Earth. And yes, so for all of us who joined today, you didn't have the time to speak to our mentors, please feel free to look at the recordings. We have two sessions. So our insights from the mentors, I think, can be very helpful to you. And thank you again. I don't know if my colleague Joe would like to say something before we close.
Oh, thanks, Tella. Thank you very much. Thank you to every participant in this session. Remember, you're coming from more than 60 countries. And thanks to Nokia and the Indigenous mentors, and to Hacker Earth, and to the Internet Society, which is not here in this session today. Yeah, thanks so much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much. And we look forward to receiving your submissions. Before, how could you please tell me whether we can use any technology? There's no, I mean, we don't specify any technology. Much. And we look forward to seeing you very soon. And good luck to our hackers. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for the organizers. Nice initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank